Hi, I'm Lisa Singer. I am the editorial director of Brand Insider at Media Post, and this is Brand Insider BTS, where I get to pull back the curtain on some of the most influential women marketers. Today, I'm with Denise Cherry, and she is the VP of Marketing at Rivian. Hey, Denise, welcome.
Hi, but thank you. It's so great to be here.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you. I know you were at our automotive summit and you got to speak all about marketing and strategy and all of that, but today we're going to turn it around a little bit and hear more about Denise. So I'm really excited to do this.
Let's do it.
All right, well, so I still always like to somehow incorporate your brand and of course, Rivian, your tagline is keep the world adventurous forever. So, and then I also, when you launched Rivian R2, there was it was introduced in terms of what is adventure. So with that, I want to turn it around to you. And how do you define adventure? What is adventure to you?
Well, ooh, I'll start. I mean, we're still heavy. So, but I mean, I think for me, the greatest adventure that I've been on, the thing that has been most going into the unknown and not sure what's going to happen, but you sort of have to embrace things, has been motherhood, honestly. It's
What?
such a fundamental shift in, I mean, I was the kind of woman who was like 100% about my career, and I didn't need to have kids. I didn't want to have kids, and I didn't know how you could possibly balance those two things. Um, and then of course I changed my mind and now I have two kids. And but but it's been such a phenomenal journey, and it just the way that it re just completely re-identifies yourself. Like that took me a long time when I had my first daughter to really understand, like, because I had never played with dolls, I never babysat, I never like had any association with kids. It was really a fundamental shift in how I thought about myself. And now she just turned 7 this week.
Wow.
I I couldn't think of myself any other way. And the truth is, like, you never find balance, but you find ways to make room for all of those things. And the adventure just sort of grows, and it allows you to be able to do all of the amazing, or at least me, all the amazing career things that I've wanted to do, and even more than I even anticipated. And also do it with these incredible little humans that they can make every day like completely unexpected.
Yeah, no. So you said two daughters?
I have two daughters. I have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old.
Okay. And so, I mean, one, it's obviously impacted your life in a lot of amazing ways and challenges. What do you think has been, because you said you weren't, this wasn't something you were planning on. This was something that you obviously changed your mind. But maybe go back to why weren't you planning? Like, what did you think it would take away from you that you realized either it didn't, or maybe it didn't matter so much because what you were receiving was so much better?
A good question. I really didn't know. I have always worked with startups or at startups and technology companies. So I didn't know how I could balance the workload, the hours, like the the sort of always on nature of that with being able to give part of myself to like another human being who desperately needs you. But the reality is like you at least I learned how to make those boundaries for myself because being a present mom was so important to me. I like, and I also learned the value of, as a woman who is a leader in technology where it's not super common,
Mhm.
it was also important to me to set those boundaries just to set an example for other women that work with me, right? That
Right.
it is okay. I am not available 5 to 7. It is dinner, it is bedtime, it is all these things. I almost always go back online later for better or worse, but but like making sure that people understood what boundaries meant for me. And I actually think that that's allowed me to be even more successful, which wasn't what I expected. Being able to set those things meant that like people understood, and more than that, like people encouraged it, and it allowed people to feel comfortable doing the same for themselves. And it sort of lifted all things. And I didn't expect that that would have been possible.
Yeah. Well, and especially I think women tend to want not, especially someone, and as you said, not many women in tech, and you probably are going through a lot of it, at least early on, especially wanting to kind of prove yourself, show that you're deserve that seat at the table, and you want to say yes, 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 and get it all done. But it sounds like you made yourself not only you're obviously still doing it very well, but in a more strategic way, I guess, with your time. Like it almost seems like maybe you were able to organize your life and what you need to do
Yeah.
a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think it's an interesting one because you said it like sort of, I always approached it as like, I need to prove that I have a seat at the table. And something about motherhood made me be like, nope, I've earned a seat at the table. And like, it's okay that I'm allowed to do those things. I can still deliver above and beyond what I want to. Um, and that mind shift, I think, was because of like having my daughters.
Yeah. Well, and how, I mean, one, I think that's so awesome. And how wonderful is that for your daughters growing up with a mom and seeing the mom can do, I don't want to say it all because it's not about it all, but it's like can stay with a career, be a good mom, and just be present.
That was also part of it too, which was like, even I'm always really cautious with my children. I'll be like, I'm going to work, and they'll be like, why? I don't want you to. And it's like, well, I really love what I do, and I love being with you, but I also really love my job. Like I'm trying to make it very much like everything about it is positive, because I want them to associate that like you can do all of these things and it's still like a really great thing. You don't have like, I don't think that I'm compromising by doing these things, because I want that to become second nature to them.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome. So, and I have to say, so I mentioned that you had been at our automotive show, and we hadn't met at that time, and I was just like seeing you up there, and I'm like, who is she? And I started looking, looking at your background, and it intrigued me because you were all about design early on, for the most part, and then now here you are, VP of marketing. Talk about that. Let's back it up. Go back to when you were graduating. So obviously design I think was the plan. And not that you're not obviously maybe, still design takes a part of what you're doing. But did you ever foresee this?
No, not
And
even
how
close.
did you get there? Talk about that, your path.
In fact, I have a very distinct memory of being in college and reading somewhere like, oh, the average person changes their career 7 times in their life, or whatever that statistic is, and being like, no, there's no way. For like, my background is in architecture and interior design. So I was like, I love this. My father did that as well. I was like, this is what I'm going to do forever. That was wrong. Like, to adventure. And but I have like a very distinct memory of thinking that, and then now looking back and being like, wow, did I misjudge that completely? But I think that's part of the beauty of life. So I spent a lot of my career in interior design, a lot in specifically in the Bay Area in tech workplace. So I've done a lot of various technology companies over the years. And then I moved towards Rivian, and I had never worked in automotive before, but I had come in originally to do still within my general area of expertise. Rivian owns or has a lot of different kinds of development. So it was a super interesting problem to solve. Like, you get to design or think about 2,000-acre master plans. You're going to get to design our retail program from the ground up, our service centers, workplaces, events, like all of these various things. So it was really natural extension. And then I moved into even more design, and it had sort of some of the digital pieces like web design, things like that. Basically anything that wasn't the car itself was what I had managed. And the whole time I had always been like, I love design, but I'll be the first to admit that like I was never the best designer on our team. Our team is insanely talented. They are curating everything that you see when you go into a store, every book, the vintage furniture, hand selected, then the fabric that reupholsters it, then the graphic design and the exhibits and everything that goes, like they're so thoughtful, they're so talented. What I was always really good at was stitching that creative thinking into more like into business objectives.
Mhm.
And so that became sort of like a really natural path towards, coming into the marketing team. I have worked at Rivian for almost 6 years, which is a very long time for Rivian. And so I also came with a very deep understanding of how where the brand started, how we want it to evolve, and how we want it to grow, and who we want to talk to in the future. So all of those pieces meant that I I became a unexpected but maybe natural fit for the person to lead this evolution of the marketing team.
I'm curious, did you think of it? Like, did you see it happening and say, you know what, I'm going to put my, foot in for this or my hat in, however you term that? Or was it something that they saw it in you then said, what do you think of doing this for us, Denise?
It's a little bit of both, if we're being honest. So I had helped launch I'd led the R2 launch essentially, which was like probably the most marketing thing I'd ever done. And then at the time, we had sort of gone through a lot of different churn, and there was a lot of questions about, for a long time, I mean, we had people, we had an order bank that was, hundreds of thousands of people, and we couldn't produce vehicles fast enough. So we didn't need marketing for a very, very long time. So there was sort of a natural apprehension to the idea of it overall. And over the last, call it year or two, that has obviously shifted greatly. But I think what helps is having someone that has been with the company for a very long time, has sort of done a lot of different things, helped the company grow, and has that deep understanding that you're not like, what we never wanted to do was lose like the authentic core of the brand, because it's been so resonant with so many people. And I think that um, me helping to lead this the reason that I got picked was because of that deep knowledge and the fact that like I will keep the brand integrity above all else.
Well, but as you say, because you've been there, so you know to keep that integrity. But at the same point, you have that tech background, which is just by itself always moving forward, always thinking of what's next, what's innovative.
Action
So that
oriented, stuff
combination,
done, totally.
that combination must be such a plus, I would think, moving into the career and to the job that you are in now.
Yeah, it's been great. And the other thing I really have always loved doing is being able to, stitch a lot of different groups in the business together and sort of help it all move forward, like collectively, which is really critical. We are such a cross-functional group, and we support a lot, we support software, we support sales, we support design, we like product launches, all these different things. And so having those relationships too across the business already also helps the organization move that much faster.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I want to jump back when you were saying initially that you realized after you had your daughters that I do deserve a seat at the table. What did it take? Because when you're talking tech and automotive, I mean, that's two folks right there, more male oriented, more male dominated careers. And here you are, you're successful, you're in a role that many would want to aspire to do. And how did you get to that point? Or what would you advise that young person starting out, that young woman starting out, wanting to get to that point? Maybe has that tech background, maybe is interested in automotive, however it may be, maybe the two won't merge, but how do you get them to say, I do deserve a seat at the table?
I always looked at everything as an opportunity, even if it was way out of my comfort zone. I think it's not necessarily saying yes to everything, but it's sort of like being unafraid to try, right? I mean, I just think that goes so far. I think we as women tend to really underestimate our abilities. And so putting yourself out there and being willing to sort of go out on a limb and put an idea down on paper, present an opportunity or something that you see, because 9 times out of 10, people will be like, that's an incredible idea. Or if not, they'll be like, love that. But what if we tried X, Y, and Z? But by doing that, you have given yourself that right seat at the table, and like you've started to give yourself permission to branch out into something that maybe is a little bit outside of your comfort zone. I think that most of us are more talented than we give ourselves credit for.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I do think women more than men, and they've even had studies for this, which I can't cite, but they feel like they have to check off all the boxes.
Yeah, that thing where like women apply to a job when they qualify for 100% of the things on the job, and it's like you probably only need to 70%,
Right.
and it's
And
okay.
there's obviously, talents that you have, skill sets that you have that transfer over and cross over, but it doesn't have to be that cookie cutter mix. So I do think that women just need to, as you said, sort of gain that confidence to sort of step out of the box and really put themselves out there.
And just be it's really like believing in yourself more than you would naturally. I think is maybe a good way to put it.
The way your best friend does.
Yes, that's a
Like,
great way to put it.
yeah, like the way your friends talk about you, it's always like, can you say that? You know, do I know to do this? So yeah, I totally get that. All right, so I want to have a little fun. Again, I go back to the brand Rivian, and this was actually showcased at Automotive, your Halloween ad, or for it was basically, it was actually launching new software in the vehicle, but you had the Hoff,
Yes,
David.
Alima. Yeah.
I loved it. That was such an awesome commercial. It was such
So
a
fun.
great spot. And I think, because it was basically it was perfect for him just because he had Kit, which I guess is an AI, which I don't think I thought of it as AI or anyone thought of it at the time, but obviously that's what it was. And that was sort of you're bringing that to the market. So I want to just turn it into, okay, huge show in the 80s. Also, another comparison you guys talked about, you compared it to be the DeLorean from Back to the Future, another 80s movie. So let's go to the 80s. And David Hasselhoff, he had the one line and he said, "It's good to be back." Okay. So in the 80s, what would you want back? That one thing. What would be good to be back?
A good question. So I'm gonna say fashion, but not what people picture. Like, not, I'm not necessarily suggesting we need like big hair and like puffy shoulder pads, but I do think that there's some really key, like super stylish women that we can take inspiration from even today. Think about like Princess Diana, like,
Mhm.
oversized blazer, sweatshirt, the bike shorts, like so chic, but um sort of effortlessly so. Like that to me, I think is something like looking back to those super stylish women like her, that's what we could bring back.
I agree. So we're not going for like what was it, Joan Collins?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Less dynasty, less.
Linda Evans. She was like a football player. I mean, beautiful woman, but like
I
they're
mean, I can remember my mom having like, and they were, I mean, my mother is a small Japanese woman, and these things were like,
taking all of her whole body.
totally.
That's great. What's your guilty pleasure?
What was that?
What's your guilty pleasure?
Oh, well, it's gonna have to tie back to fashion a little bit. My guilty pleasure is like instead of doom scrolling, I usually am on like a Net-a-Porter or like something, and I'm just sort of like every day scrolling what's new, and sort of
Yeah.
online shopping is probably my biggest guilty pleasure. Sometimes like hiding packages from my husband.
Yeah, no. I get so addicted to like when you go through the on Meta and just they have those little like snippets of video of people trying on things or they just got this from such, and I just watch them all, and a lot of them are just kind of dumb, but it's just like you get so addicted. You
Like,
want,
look at my haul, and then they're like putting them all on for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. No, I completely get that. Okay, so let's go back to Denise preteen, so like tween, I guess it's called. What advice would you give Denise that you wish you knew then that you know now?
That it is, I think preteen me imagined like that your life is very linear and very direct, and I was going to do all of these things. I was going to go to college on the East Coast, and I was going to become an academic, and I was going to, like, I had sort of checked off all of these different things. And then, of course, even at 18, I didn't do any of those things. Um, and I went into a more creative profession. And I think like giving preteen me permission to be slightly less future forward and much more present thinking, I think, for lack of a better word. Like, I think I was always so consumed with what was going to happen 4 or 5 years in front of me that I didn't get to appreciate being like that fun kid at 12 or 13. And that would be what I spend a little bit more time like being present. Kids.
Yeah, no, I think sometimes too, we can say, as you said, you have that plan. And so you say, oh, I'll do this when I get to here. You know what I mean? Like we put off a lot of things because we think it's going to fit into our perfect life that's
Oh,
going to happen 5 years from now or three, whatever it may be. And I think, as you said, you're missing out on a lot of things if you do that.
yeah, your perfect life doesn't have to be 5 years away. You can just
Right.
actually spend time appreciating and doing the things you want in the present. I think it's can go a long way.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Okay, so I'm curious, has there been a failure or a challenge, say, that's happened that's maybe redirected you? You sort of was like, what am I going to do? And you then went in another direction. But that ultimately, maybe at the time it didn't feel that way, but ultimately it brought you into a better place. Is there a specific example that sort of sticks out for you?
Yeah, I mean, before I worked at Rivian, I worked for a particular tech executive, and I really thought like we'd worked together for a long time, for like call it like 7 years, and I thought that that would have been like that was like one of the pivotal, most strong work relationships that I had, and and then it really fell apart, and uh, and it got really bad for like probably like a year or so, and I thought that that was really like I was like this is as bad as it's ever like this is the worst it's going to be, like I don't know what I'm going to do. um but actually doing that, being there, connected me to the people that then I get to work with at Rivian, and it ultimately ended up bringing me here. So we often the joke that like, yes, that place was a great aggregator of talent, just wasn't a great keeper of it. But at the end of the day, we all still get to work together, and it ultimately brought us to this place, which has been one of the really transformative work environments of my career. And I feel super, super grateful to RJ and to everyone that I work with every day that they've made such a incredible culture and such an incredible place where like it's okay for the designer to pivot into marketing, and it's okay for you to grow and try and learn new things. That's very special.
Yeah, no, it sounds it. But I'm curious when you were going through it, how did you get through it in the sense of, did you have to sort of fall and then pick yourself up? Did you move forward? Because also you're talking about a person who was in your life who you, I'm assuming, trusted, worked well with, had to adjust that your feelings there. Maybe there's even some loyalty, struggles. So how did you able to get yourself to this next point?
I think that the only way through something is through it, right? Like there's no other there's really nothing else. And that was a really a valuable lesson for me too, which is like as bad as something feels, like it's actually just going to one day just be another day in your life, and you can move forward, and now you can look back and think about all the really incredible pieces of that relationship and pieces of like that maybe you couldn't while you were going through it. But I think the only way is through, you know?
Yeah, no, I think that's actually as simple as it sounds. It is really good advice that just if you remember that it is going to just be another day,
Yeah.
then it just keeps you moving, and that's what else can you do? So, I mean, anyway, but I think that's great. All right, so back to Rivian. Your logo, which I didn't realize this, but doing my snooping, I found out. It uses four arrows for the logo. But what I didn't realize is they symbolize the values and behaviors that inform Rivian's decisions and that they make and behaviors. So let's go with just two arrows. What value and or behavior, or maybe it's a combo, informs decisions that you make professionally? And then I also want to turn it to personally. So first professionally, like what's the key value that you think just stands out?
We actually have we call that our compass, actually. Um, but I really believe that understanding the intention of something, like understanding the why behind anyone else's decision or point of view or thought process or creative or whatever it is, understanding that why is the most important part.
Mm.
And that is what helps shape a decision more than anything else. Like, I really believe that you can't make an educated decision about anything unless you understand the intention of both the end result, but also of whomever is presenting those pieces to you. So that, like, getting to that why underneath and sort of asking that why over and over until you get to the sort of center intention, that's been like the kind of the most pivotal way that I approach all all work related things, whether that's the point of view on a design, whether that's the end result of a campaign, whether that's a problem that someone is bringing me that we need to solve. I just think you really need to know the intention of what you're trying to accomplish at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like that's like really so true. Like, like, because you want to understand why. Like, even people you don't understand, which then could cross over. Maybe it has something to do with your personal answer. But like, if you're getting mad at someone wanting something, or you're wanting to know why a particular campaign is going to. I just said that, but I'm just saying, someone pitches a certain campaign. Well, why are we going to do this? Like, so it really just comes down. That's like a simple. I'm not saying it's an easy answer, but it's a simple way to look at it and to really get to the bottom of things.
I always have to tell people, like, I'm going to ask you why multiple times. It's not because I doubt what you're saying, it's because I just really want to understand.
The thought behind it. So, all right. So now on the personal side.
On the personal side, I think it's something let's call this one aspirational because I want to do this much, like, but it's something I struggle with occasionally with people being always on. But I think really trying to make sure that when you're present, you're present,
Yeah.
right? It's so difficult to, like, because of whatever work distractions on your phone, well, all of these different things, but like, because time is so limited, I think it goes both ways. Like, when you're present for work, be present for work, but more importantly, like, when I'm present for my family, like, really, really trying to be present there and not feel like I'm stretched in too many different ways. It's the only way, it's the closest I've come to balance, is sort of that compartmentalization is like a bad way to describe it, but really trying to make sure that every minute is super valuable. And so taking advantage of those moments in the right ways, and probably have like a 50% success rate at that right now, but I'm working on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and especially, the last thing you see these people at the park and their kids are playing, but they're on the phone or
Yeah.
whatever. I'm not putting any judgment. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone is doing their best, but it's just, you do miss out. Like, even when I go to the park with my dog and it's the first time, or on the beach. Did you get pictures? I'm like, no, like go
Yeah.
take a video. Like, it's like, I'm just enjoying that I don't necessarily, I don't know. I mean, not that it's not good to do video or pictures. I'm not saying against that, but I really just think when I go to our party, did you take photos?
Yeah,
No,
I've got it back.
enjoyed
No, I
it.
was talking. Oh, yeah. And my husband always says, he's like, there's a really limited window where these kids are going to be super excited that you're with them all the time, and that we should really take advantage of that window because they're going to hit, like, whatever, 12 or 13 and
Yeah.
just be done with us.
Yeah.
Totally.
You're doing hugging me. I know that's very, I feel like I remember doing that to my mom and I'm like, oh my gosh, how like horrible that must have felt. So,
Totally.
all right, my last question. If you weren't a marketer, which doesn't take a lot of effort thinking back to being, but even aren't a designer, but something that you haven't been, what would you be? What would your plan be?
That's a great question. I think so. If you think about what I loved about architecture, what I loved about interior design, and even what I love about marketing, it really comes down to like understanding human behavior. Like I really loved to think about the way people would move through space. And I really love to think about what motivates people when we're talking about a particular campaign. So perhaps if I weren't doing these things, I think I would want to do something, whether that's like anthropology, like sort of this study and the interest of like the why people do what they do is super interesting to me.
Yeah, no, I could see that. And it's almost archaeology like is investigative and marketing is investigative. You're investigating, consumers, the marketplace, those kind of things. So it's all sort of getting that story, finding that story.
Totally.
So, well, Denise, this was so awesome. Such a pleasure talking with you. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Ew, this was fantastic. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you for watching. As I always say, if you have a woman marketer who you'd like to sort of pull back the curtain on, please let me know and I will do my best to get her. So thanks for watching. And Denise, again, thank you.